Blake Lively needs to stop. Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Chanel. I've been keeping up with the It Ends With Us lawsuit, and I don't think I have the legal knowledge to really explain to you all what the heck is going on. And maybe eventually I'll go through all of the content and try to break it down for you. But right now, I want to focus on Blake Lively, because Blake Lively has been a person that's irked me for a really long time, and so has her husband, Ryan Reynolds. And while I don't feel like I have the legal knowledge to go through and explain the It Ends With Us lawsuit, I do feel like I have a good grasp of Blake Lively's past, at least enough to explain to you why I believe Blake Lively is extremely problematic. Before we get too deep into this video, I do think it's important to emphasize that the media is extremely harsh on women, and specifically women of color. But in my opinion, I think Blake Lively uses her status in Hollywood to manipulate other people and to get what she wants. And so I want you to understand that I am not coming for Blake Lively because I disagree with women or I hate women or because I don't believe her experiences because she's a woman. But I do think that there are a lot of things to consider when it comes to her, as to me, she exemplifies the white feminist, just like her bestie Taylor Swift. And I think that this role in particular is extremely dangerous to feminism as a whole. So please do keep that in mind, that I'm coming from a perspective that respects women, that believes in feminism. I'm a feminist myself. I'm a woman myself, and I support women always. So I guess before we talk a little bit more about Blake Lively, I think it's important to identify and define what white feminism is. White feminism is a theory that prioritizes the liberation of white, Western, middle-class women and presents their experience as the universal female experience. But the issue is that it is deeply embedded in colonial and Eurocentric frameworks that speak for women of color and identifies women's liberation by the standard of white liberation. And if we know the difference between equity and equality, not everyone is the same. And so if a white woman is considered liberated, that does not mean that the person of color or a person with disabilities or other marginalizing factors is liberated as well. So basically, treating women as a homogenous category is quite dangerous because it completely ignores a whole other subset of women who might not have the same privileges as white women. The other thing is that white feminism fails to recognize other culturally significant factors, including things like religion or cultural customs, and it frames everything in a Western perspective that doesn't consider these things. And so liberation for the white woman might not be the same for a person who comes from a different culture. And then finally, by focusing on this white feminist theory, we're delegitimizing the experiences of non-white women, and it fractures what feminism could be. It could be a joint liberation movement for all women, but prioritizing the white woman, we're destroying potential in creating a unified movement to promote the interest of all women. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to Blake Lively. Let's go all the way back to 2007, where Blake Lively was playing the iconic character Serena Vanderwoodson on Gossip Girl. This was really her breakthrough role because she played a lead alongside Leighton Meester, and the series went on from 2007 to 2012 for 6 seasons. During this time, in 2010, she was cast in the movie Green Lantern, where Ryan Reynolds was her co-lead playing Green Lantern, while she was his main love interest. At the time, Ryan was married to Scarlett Johansson, and Blake was dating Penn Badgley, who was also on Gossip Girl. While Ryan and Blake claimed to have met in 2010 on the set of Green Lantern, they also claimed to have been just friends until 2011. After they had both split from their previous partners. However, there is a lot of gossip about this and some suspicion about the timeline because it seems like Blake and Ryan had some on-set chemistry, and it was very convenient that both of them had split from their partners around the same time and then got together shortly after those splits. What's also suspicious is how quickly their relationship moved, because they ended up getting married in 2012. After only dating for about a year. Now, I don't really know what to think. It wouldn't surprise me if they did cheat on their partners, because this is Hollywood after all. And I also don't think it's uncommon for Hollywood couples to marry after a year of being together. So who knows what really happened? No one really knows except for Ryan and Blake, and possibly their ex-partners as well. And at this time, they were considered the it couple. They seemed to be so in love, but I do want to point out that there is a significant age difference between them. Surprise, surprise, because when they met, Blake was only 23 and Ryan was 34. Which means there's a whole 11-year difference between them. And if you've watched my other videos, you already know how I feel about age gap relationships when one of the individuals in the couple is still in their 20s, especially in their early 20s. But let's put that all aside for today, because the real issue is Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' choice of a wedding venue. These two decided that it would be a beautiful idea to get married on a plantation. And I really hope I don't have to explain to you why getting married on a plantation is a stupid idea and extremely tactless, because plantations in the antebellum South were these grand mansions, grand estates, where slaves were forced to work in brutal conditions, in torturous conditions, and I can't even begin to describe to you how awful and traumatizing slavery is, even still to this day for many Black Americans. And the fact that this white rich couple chose to get married in a plantation that represents so much suffering, so much pain, and they didn't even seem to have a second thought about it until after the wedding. Not only is it completely tactless, but it's insulting to an entire population of people who still to this day face immense generational trauma from the atrocities committed by white Americans in the antebellum South. And specifically Boone Hall, the plantation where Ryan and Blake got married, is known for its brutal treatment of slaves, and conditions were especially awful under the Horlbeck family's estate, where they had enslaved up to 225 people. And to me, to imagine that as a place where you would want to get married, where so much suffering took place, and you don't see anything wrong with that, I don't know what more I could say to you that explains that that is so incredibly insensitive and such a slap in the face to the Black American community. And naturally, they received a lot of backlash for this choice, and they did apologize publicly, but only 8 years after their wedding in 2020. And Ryan specifically was the only one who made a public statement, and Blake never actually said anything, but the couple did donate $200,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. But I do think it's also very important to note that Blake never said anything and just let Ryan handle it. And this is a pattern that we see a lot with Blake, where she does a lot of racially insensitive things and then doesn't ever acknowledge how problematic it is, nor does she ever apologize for it. And I don't know what that really says about her, but to me, it seems like she's not actually sorry for anything she's done in the past at all. The 2012 wedding scandal was not the only racially insensitive thing that Blake Lively did. Because in 2014, Blake had a website called Preserve, which was a lifestyle website that had a fashion editorial that was titled Allure of Antebellum. The antebellum South refers to the southern United States from the late 18th century until the Civil War in 1861. And during this time, the economy relied heavily on plantations, where rich white families exploited African American slave labor to cultivate cash crops like cotton. And the word antebellum itself means before the war. The first thing that I think of when someone mentions the antebellum South is not glamour or beauty, but rather a period of a brutal system of slavery that exploited individuals and shaped the hierarchical society of America to be so racially prejudiced. However, there is a subset of individuals who like to romanticize this time, and specifically, the Southern belle was the ideal of beauty. And of course, Blake Lively, who is a white woman who has never experienced racism in her life, decided that the antebellum South was something to be romanticized. In her lifestyle website, Blake seems to glorify the aesthetics of the pre-Civil War South, and literally describes the Southern belle as women who have an innate sense of social poise and magnetic sensibility. On this website, Blake made no effort at all to acknowledge the brutal realities of slavery. In fact, that seems to be completely omitted from her website, And romanticizing the Confederate South just feels innately racist. Understandably, the website got a lot of backlash, and so did Blake, for romanticizing a time where so many individuals suffered at the hands of the families that Southern belles come from, and people accused her of spreading pro-slavery propaganda. Now, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with liking the culture and aesthetics of a specific time period, and it's absolutely possible to appreciate a time period while also acknowledging deeply problematic things that occurred at the time. For instance, I am really fascinated by historical fashion, and I follow a lot of content creators who like to replicate those aesthetics. But they also make sure to put in the extra care to acknowledge crucial history from that time period that was particularly heinous to a set of people. But they do this while also appreciating some of those aspects of that time period. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. But knowing Blake and her character, this is not something that she was even going to consider doing, because this website completely disregards all of the atrocities from the antebellum South, and to ignore this is disrespectful, dehumanizing, and blatantly racist, in my opinion. Not to mention, it's very irresponsible, as Blake at this time is a public figure. And when you also consider that Blake got married at a plantation in 2012, just 2 years before this lifestyle website was published, it brings up a lot of questions about who Blake really is and what her morals are. The website only lasted a year before it was taken down in 2015, but again, this was just something that Blake swept under the rug. There was never any public formal apology. She just kind of ignored it and moved on with her life. And in 2016, Blake found herself under fire once again for racial insensitivity. Blake posted a photo of herself in a form-fitting dress, and the caption read, "LA face with an Oakland booty." This caption is actually a reference to Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, and people had a lot of issues with her specifically using this caption because Blake, who is a white woman, refers to her body as an Oakland body, and Oakland is a place known for Black culture. It's very integral to the Black community, and so to a lot of people it felt like she was appropriating the Black body, because here a white woman is yet again taking something from Black women who have been heavily criticized and sexualized for their natural bodies. I can understand the sentiment that people who were offended by this are trying to convey, and I'm not telling anyone how to feel, because if you are offended by it, that's your truth, and I 100% respect that. And I know how frustrating it can be for a woman of color specifically to feel like their body is a punchline, especially coming from a rich white woman. And again, I can completely understand if this instance was something that was really offensive to you. But to me, and in my opinion, I think that this was tactless, of course, but I do feel like this doesn't carry the same weight as her plantation wedding and her romanticization of the antebellum South. In other words, I don't think it's as overtly racist as the previous two examples. And surprisingly, Blake actually did respond to this backlash, although she didn't apologize for it. She did explain that what she meant by that caption was to celebrate her body and her curves, while rejecting the idealization of the ultra-thin feminine body. Also during the same year, Blake starred in The Cafe Society, which was a film directed by Woody Allen. And if you don't know about all of the allegations against Woody Allen, it really just turns my stomach to even explain it. But just know that Woody Allen has been accused of sexually abusing his own adoptive child, and is now currently married to his ex-partner Mia Farrow's adoptive daughter. All of it is weird and fucked up, and to sum it all up, bro sucks. In her promotion for Cafe Society, Blake praised Woody Allen and even stated that his directing style was very empowering to women. She says that she mainly only focused on her own experience with Woody Allen and said, quote, "It's very dangerous to factor in things you don't know anything about. My experience with Woody is he's empowering to women." Bitch, how absolutely insulting. This remark is so disrespectful to the individual who accused Woody Allen of abusing her. And Blake Lively is over here singing praises to this woman's abuser. And Woody Allen is not the only Hollywood man exposed by the Me Too movement that Blake Lively defended. In fact, she defended probably the industry's worst abuser, Harvey Weinstein. During the Me Too movement in 2016, so many women came forward, I think it was 80 women, accusing Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment and or abuse. But Blake had the gall to say, quote, "That was never my experience with Harvey in any way whatsoever." I think that if people heard these stories, I do believe in humanity enough that this wouldn't have just continued. I never heard any stories like this. I never heard anything specific, but it's devastating to hear. And this is so ironic when juxtaposed with her current lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, claiming that Justin sexually harassed her on the set of It Ends With Us. Finally, the last example I want to highlight of Blake's problematic behavior is her L'Oreal ad in 2017. In 2017, L'Oreal launched a diversity-focused cosmetics campaign, and Blake Lively was one person that they featured. And you might be thinking, why was Blake Lively in this ad? Well, Blake says that she is English, Irish, German, and Cherokee. She describes her diverse heritage as neat, because it's so cool to have a multicultural background.
I'm English, Irish, German, and Cherokee. So my family's sort of from all over. To look back far into my heritage and see where everybody came from, you know, it's neat. It's neat to be in this country that has such diversity and such culture.
And there's no proof that this claim is true or not true, but what is clear is that Blake is a white passing woman. And so even if she does have any Cherokee ancestry in her, she has been capitalizing off of her white passing identity and has built her career playing white women. And so to invoke this distant Native American heritage is questionable because never has she ever celebrated this supposed Cherokee ancestry. And then for her to capitalize off of this probably minuscule percentage of Cherokee ancestry, seemingly out of nowhere, feels pretty slimy. And I'm sorry, but even if Blake did have any Cherokee in her, she is far from the ideal representation of individuals from the Cherokee Nation. And again, Blake never provided proof of this Cherokee ancestry, nor did she even acknowledge or apologize for taking the spot of someone who is actually part of the Cherokee Nation and for claiming herself as Cherokee representation. So these are the biggest controversies surrounding Blake Lively and probably the most credible and damning, but I do think we should do a quick rapid fire of all of the other problematic things that Blake has done because they do provide a bigger picture of how problematic Blake actually is. So let's start off with her co-star from Gossip Girl, Leighton Meester. During their time on the Gossip Girl set, there were a lot of rumors that Blake and Leighton weren't actually friends, even though they played best friends on the show. There are a couple examples of Blake pretty much humiliating Leighton during interviews, seemingly making fun of Leighton for being born in a prison cell, because at the time of her birth, her mother was actually incarcerated.
Chuck has a matching pet monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey. And then I got a few of them.
She got a few of them.
Come on, it was a joke. Lord have mercy.
That was a lot of information about cages, and I'm sorry, I was still thrown off by that
He
stuff.
was like, wow.
Who else didn't want to act in a cage?
Well, some of them
And required a
started.
cage.
Yes.
Our next example is Armie Hammer claiming that Blake was probably the sole reason that he was let go early from the Gossip Girl cast, and he claimed that he was actually supposed to be in a couple more episodes, but someone on set didn't seem to get along with him very well and was seemingly able to get him fired.
Let me just say that was a tough show to film, and I didn't end up actually filming all of the episodes I was supposed to because it was such a tough film.
Really? Literally, you said, get me out of this.
It was also like, get him out of here. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it just literally was that. Whose love interest were you?
I was Blake Lively's love
You
interest.
were?
Yeah.
Okay, well then.
Sounds like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
No, that's not what I'm
That's
saying.
exactly what I was thinking.
Don't put words into his mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it should be noted that Armie Hammer is a very weird individual who may or may not be a cannibal, allegedly. So I guess take that with what you will. There's also an interview clip of Blake admitting to trying to get Penn Badgley fired. So it wouldn't be too surprising to me if Blake was the reason that Armie Hammer was fired. But Blake said that she tried to get the other cast members to turn on Penn Badgley because for some reason she didn't like him. But I guess eventually she ended up liking him because they ended up dating for quite a while before she met Ryan. And during the It Ends With Us premiere and all of the promo that was going on, people noted that Blake's promotion of the movie was very tasteless. And because of this, a lot of clips resurfaced of her where she was saying some questionable things in interviews. For instance, she said a transphobic slur in an interview in 2012 for Elle magazine, and she used this slur also in 2008 in an interview where she was alongside Leighton Meester, and then again in 2009 in an interview with Allure.
On Sunday, 18th August, the It Ends With Us star was called out after a quote from a 2012 interview she did with Elle magazine was posted to X. When asked about her future children, Lively said, "I hope to have a few girls one day. If not girls, they better be because I have some amazing shoes and bags and stories that need to be appreciated." The actress used the term again in a 2009 interview with Allure magazine, where she is quoted saying, "I feel like a lot of the time. I don't know, I'm large. They put me in 6-inch heels and I tower over every man, and I'm surrounded by a lot of tiny people. I feel like a man sometimes." Another clip from a 2008 interview Blake Lively did with Gossip Girl co-star Leighton Meester also resurfaced over the weekend.
I read the gossip magazines and everybody is dating everyone, everybody hates everyone, everybody's like had tons of plastic surgery and we're actually men and nannies. I mean, it's just like, you don't listen to the rumors.
But I will say the 2000s and the early 2010s were different territory. Things that were acceptable then are definitely not acceptable now. But she has not publicly commented on any of these interviews. Again, I guess her tactic is to just ignore things until they go away, but she never has actually apologized for using these slurs. Another video resurfaced of Blake Lively admitting to doing blackface. This video is from 2006, and in it she talks about her experience as a 10th grader where she and her friend would drive around and stalk boys that they had crushes on. And there was one night where she decided to disguise herself as a black woman to avoid being recognized by them.
My best friend and I, when we were in 10th grade, we had like crazy crushes. We would drive around, like stalk these guys. We decided one night to go to the arcade where they were, and I put bronzer all over myself in a Scary Spice fro, so I thought they would think I was like a black girl. And so I could stalk them. My friend dressed up as like this goth girl, and we literally sat outside their houses.
While 2006 was a weird time, it definitely was not acceptable to wear blackface. And the way I usually gauge public perceptions of these things is references to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because in that show, all of those characters are completely irredeemable. You're not supposed to like them at all. And in that show, they do blackface, and it's very clear that it's completely unacceptable. And because these characters have no redeeming qualities, the audience knows that this is something that shouldn't be done. The last controversy I want to touch on is an interview that was released in 2024 that was actually recorded in 2016 when Blake was doing promo for her movie Cafe Society. This interview was released by Shashti Flaw, who was the journalist interviewing her at the time. And I think I'm just gonna show you this interview because it's hard to describe without seeing all of the body language, passive-aggressive comments, and the awkward tension between Blake, Shashti, and her co-star Parker Posey.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
And they are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you, thank you.
Are
you
you
like
guys-
the movie? Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so like visually amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, working in
Everyone
digital.
wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
I love Jesse's suits
He has some
and
beautiful.
how
That's what I'm
he
saying. His
chose
wardrobe
it.
was
Oh, I
beautiful.
know,
Corey's
everybody.
wardrobe
I
was
know,
gorgeous.
he's
Those
so great.
high-waisted pants.
He's so great.
I would wish men
And
wore
sorry,
high-waisted
too.
pants like
I
that
know.
still.
Me too.
Or the father with his tank top in
Oh,
bed.
it's so
Just
good.
like, it's just like
Did you
that.
catch
You could
the,
feel
the
it.
tablecloth on the light in the Italian restaurant when they eat spaghetti?
I didn't
and
notice that. No.
There's
So
so
I
much
feel like-
warmth of everything, you know.
Yeah, it's not just the women that have the clothes.
But
I feel like the women
Victoria-
get the conversation, but it's like
Yeah.
every detail with everybody.
But
Like,
yeah,
it's so,
it was
so
amazing
beautiful.
to look at.
Steve's
And then to see
white
it.
suits.
So, as you can see, Blake Lively has a very problematic past, and this is all separate from the It Ends With Us lawsuit, and I think it's very important to understanding who Blake Lively actually is and her character, because it provides context of where Blake is actually coming from when she is filing this lawsuit, and how dangerous and problematic this lawsuit actually is for victims of SA and SH, and for the feminist movement as a whole. But I am going to get into that probably in a later video because there's way too much to cover in this video, and this video is already so long. But do know that I have lots of thoughts regarding that lawsuit. Alrighty. Well, that's all that I have for you all today. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. And I would also love to hear from you. What do you think about Blake Lively? And do you agree with my takes? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? I'm very curious to hear from all of you about what you think of Blake Lively and all of her past controversies. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.